Hey, you've arrived to our Retire Early lifestyle. We're glad to have you here. So here we are in 2025, and according to a Gallup poll, cost of living is still at the top of Americans' concerns, as many cite rising costs as a reason for moving abroad. Priced out of America! Moving abroad is actually considered a financial hack for some Americans, and is why they fall prey to the enticements of a better life abroad. So we're glad you're here watching this today. The rising cost of living in the U.S. has become one of the top reasons why Americans are moving abroad. Expenses like housing, healthcare, groceries, childcare, and transportation continue to climb, making daily life increasingly unaffordable for many. Living abroad is the dream for many people, but yet the reality of the journey could end up being a bit more financially challenging than you thought because of hidden costs. There is expat pricing and inflation, the regular inflation of a country. There's losing your job and the unknown costs you didn't think about before you moved abroad. Almost all the expats we met were enticed by the cheaper cost of living Cuenca, Ecuador offered. That's fair enough. Ecuador is a good choice for that and still is. Ecuador is also very welcoming, and they especially like retirees. What's that saying again? Go where you're treated best? Well, what does that really mean though? Treated best falsely because you're a big money investor? Or treated best just for being who you are? So that's something to think about. We know that we'd want to go where we are genuinely well received into the country. What about you? It's true, you can live a cheaper lifestyle in another country. However, the country in question has to be substantially less expensive for it to really work. And that's because of all the hidden costs we mentioned already just previously. Did you know that just being a foreigner is a hidden cost? We'll talk about that in a moment. This is why Ecuador and many other countries in Latin America and Asia would work great. And even Eastern European countries would work out well in the case of your money going further. However, if you're moving, let's say, to Germany, Italy, UK, Norway, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, France, Singapore, these countries do not have substantially lower costs of living, although some of them used to. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, take a look at a few cost of living comparisons right here between different countries. The first one is Spain's cost of living compared to Thailand. You need your money to go further? Thailand wins. Look at this. Rent prices in Thailand are substantially lower at 44.7% than in Spain. And here's Portugal compared to Ecuador. Now that's a big cost difference too. And look at this. Rent prices in Ecuador are 67% lower than in Portugal. Wow, that is a substantial difference. And look at this. Here's France compared to Bulgaria. If you want your money to go further, Bulgaria is the winner for sure on this one. Look at this. Rent prices in Bulgaria are 48.6% lower than in France. These are the countries you're really going to save money in because they are substantially lower. And lastly, we compare Italy's cost of living with Malaysia. Big difference. Rent prices in Malaysia are 55% lower than in Italy. And for the fun of it, here is Germany compared to the USA cost of living. What's interesting about that comparison here between Germany and the USA is you'll notice the only thing that is significantly higher in the US is rents. So here it is. The cost of living in Germany is 3.2% lower than the United States. Do you think you're going to really notice that too much? Okay, so the rent prices are 40.8% lower than in the United States, but we have to tell you something about that. Hanging out in the expat circles will not find you a cheaper rent in these touristy, higher cost of living countries. Remember what we said earlier in this report, just being a foreigner is a hidden cost. Cost of living in Berlin, okay? And this is just for rent. Get ready for 1,500 to 2,000 euros a month just for rent. So what we're saying is the retire abroad media can tout all they want about how much less expensive Western Europe is compared to the USA, but it doesn't properly qualify or quantify the real cost of living because they don't take into account the things that are really hidden until you get there and experience it for yourself. The minute you come into town, you don't speak the language, bang, tourist expat rate on that rental. You're it. We'll have a list of other hidden costs that they don't tell you about when you go abroad at the end of this video, so stay tuned to that. But what if I told you that you could live in the USA and have the same quality of life and around the same cost of living, give or take, as in Western Europe? Well, you can. I picked out 4 cities from the 15 best cities in the USA. This is out of all the big cities in the USA that are ranked for the best quality of life. And I'm going to compare them to the cost of living with favorite cities in Germany. The cities with the best quality of life have high scores on U.S. News Quality of Life Index. It measures how satisfied residents are with their daily lives and takes into account factors like crime, quality and availability of health care, quality of education, and average commute times to work. Here are the cities we picked for this comparison. Boise, Idaho. It's number 3 in best places to live for quality of life. Then we have Raleigh, North Carolina. It is number 5 in the best places to live for the quality of life. And then number 6, best place to live for quality of life is Madison, Wisconsin. And then number 12, Greenville, South Carolina. Okay, now we're going to compare these top-notch U.S. cities with Germany's cost of living. This is going to be fun. Are you ready? Here we go. By the way, I do want to let you know Germany is the top country in Europe with about 160,000 Americans living there permanently as of this writing. So obviously Americans like living in Germany. And so here's the cost of living comparison between Greenville, South Carolina, and Munich. Cost of living in Munich is higher than in Greenville. The only thing that is substantially higher in Greenville is the grocery prices at 25.5% higher. So let's say you pay $100 per week for groceries in Munich, Germany. In Greenville, those same groceries will cost you $125 per week. Overall, cost of living is slightly lower in Greenville, South Carolina. Boise, Idaho ranks number 3 for best quality of life in the United States. Here is the cost of living ranked with Frankfurt, Germany. Go ahead and look at it. You can stop the video at any time. As we can see, there is nothing substantially different with the cost of living between Boise and Frankfurt, Germany. Interesting because we're in the Pacific Northwest, which has some of the highest cost of living in the United States. Next, we compare Madison, Wisconsin, which ranks number 5 for best quality of life in the United States. And we're going to compare it with Munich, Germany. The only thing that is substantially higher is grocery prices are higher in Madison, Wisconsin. And lastly, we have Raleigh, North Carolina, which ranks number 5 for best quality of life. And we're going to compare it to Munich, Germany. And here again, the only thing substantially different in cost of living is the grocery prices are a little higher in Raleigh than they are in Munich. Okay, so you'll spend a bit more on groceries every week. So those are just some of the cost of living comparisons that I made to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And let's not forget, once they see you're a foreigner, rents magically go up. Bet the Rams forgot to tell you that. Americans are severely limiting their options by listening to the Pied Pipers and all the other shills tell them how much better some of these other countries are than their own country. We're not even saying these countries aren't nice places because they are great places to travel to. But why does the Rams feel they need to keep comparing cost of living and quality of life with the USA for? We should be comparing Europe to other European countries like Germany to France, and Spain to Portugal, and Norway to Denmark. Foreigner inflation or expat inflation never goes away in these countries that are touted as best because it goes with the territory. There is always someone willing to pay more than you and is why prices just keep getting more and more inflated. You haven't seen spiraling inflation until you end up in an expat gulch abroad. We've been there and done that. We personally know expats that left Cuenca after it was named best place 5 years in a row because they couldn't make ends meet. They were living off of a small social security. And this particular woman had to leave when the rents went up in Cuenca, Ecuador, and her social security didn't. She actually left, but then later hired us to find her a local rental for a great price. That brings us to the hidden costs, and we told you that we would provide the list at the end of the video, and here they are. Please let us know if we left anything out. We'll start with the housing hidden costs. There's condo fees. In the USA, they're called HOA fees, and abroad, they love to raise these very fast. There's foreigner inflation. Rent prices just continue to elevate over the years. There's higher living costs, foreigner gouging, and foreigner tax. Landlord deposits. Some landlords try and get 3 deposits. Landlord rent increases. You can assume your rent will go up if you sign a new lease unless you stipulated otherwise in the lease agreement. Then there's visa fees and renewal fees hidden costs. Someone just commented about paying $40,000 in total on extra costs to reside somewhere in Europe. They stated they had to rent a house for a full year before they could even apply for the residency visa. This scenario would make any budget-minded expat go broke in a year. And then there's visa charges and fees. Most countries now only provide temporary visas, and every year you have to reapply and 2 years later renew again. And then there's legal fees. Those also keep going up. And then there's the food hidden costs. Imports. Imported brands of food cost more, which are the favorite food brands like Skippy peanut butter, Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, Kikkoman soy sauce, Kraft mac and cheese, just to name a few off the top of my head. The prices are out of this world on name brand foods like this. Mercados and foreigner prices. Mercados and farmers markets get way overpriced for the foreigners. That's because foreigners don't negotiate. They just pay whatever they're quoted, and it just raises prices. And then there's the food tax, the VAT. Everything you buy has a value-added tax, and in Europe, it's high. Spain's VAT is 21%. Italy's VAT is 22%. Compare that with the USA, and their VAT is 10%. And then you have the normal inflation rates. Well, that's what they call it. There is rent inflation, food inflation, real estate inflation, and it's happening all over the world, not just the USA. For example, in 2023, a European real estate website called Idealista stated that property prices in Portugal have gone up 50% in just 5 years. So is that normal inflation rates? You tell us what you think. And then, but just 1 year later, we're told by Idealista that it shot up 59%. Wow, that's almost 10% inflation in 1 year. The article states the one reason for the 5-year spike is supply is very low and demand is high. And the other reason rents have gone to the moon, states the article, is a lot of foreigners traveling and moving there. Well, we already knew that. While some will say rents are still cheaper than the U.S., it is the rate of upward climb that is notable. Those rents have doubled and tripled from what they once were, and is why Americans are losing favored status abroad. And then there are the healthcare hidden costs, health emergency costs, travel and health insurance. Many countries you travel to now want you to be covered in case of that what-if emergency. Hospital rates and clinic rates are going up and up with the rents in these foreign places. We know, and yes, foreigner pricing is not absent from the industry. It's alive and well. We have friends that were charged over $1,000 for everyday food poisoning in a Latin American country. Adjusting to a new environment, the water and the food and the stress of moving overseas, all of this can cause unexpected health issues. We've witnessed this firsthand with several Americans that moved to Ecuador over the years. As we all know, unexpected hospital emergencies can literally make us go broke and busted. And here we are in a foreign land. You can't speak the language and you need better hospital care. Many expats end up going back to the U.S. for health care when their health becomes an issue in another country. We've seen it happen multitude of times. And then there's trusting in the wrong sources, hidden costs. Thinking just because a country is touted as less expensive that it will be handed to you on a silver platter and you don't have to do anything. Unfortunately, most expats find out the hard way. They do have to do something to get the less expensive cost of living that is often touted, and it's not always going to be easy either. We've talked about that extensively on this channel, and why we'll keep repeating that unless a country is substantially less expensive, you won't be saving much money, or any at all. There are exceptions if you can procure yourself a comfortable rental, not in the foreigner pricing, and you have a steady cash flow so you can manage a budget and stick to it. It might work. And then there is work and career hidden costs. I mean, you go abroad, you work online, and you might lose your online job or get laid off. Maybe you went for a job offer and you get laid off or lost your job in your new country. Job doesn't pay enough for your expenses. Job isn't what you thought it was going to be. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs that can happen. And so here we are without a way to support ourselves in a foreign country. Some expats actually do go broke and busted and barely have enough money to make it home. Passive income tax and worldwide income tax. Yes, this is a thing when you move abroad. Some countries that have treaties with the U.S. will not double tax your worldwide income, but they will tax passive income from stocks and dividends, such as Italy has a flat rate of 26% on generated passive income from your home country. And then there's income taxes and property taxes. Well, in countries like Italy, income taxes are 23 to 43% depending on the income level. So additional paperwork, additional headaches, additional stress, costs, fees, etc., etc. Each country has their own specific tax amounts they impose on foreigners living in their country, and so it is recommended to find out what those are before moving somewhere. So to end this video, remember what we said in a previous video? There are two economic cultures when you go abroad. There is the expat economic pricing structure, and there is the local economic pricing structure. The difference is extraordinary. There are expats that actually go abroad to way less expensive countries like in Latin America and Asia and are able to have all of their needs met comfortably and still save a little money. Then there are the expats that move to countries that are not substantially cheaper, and they end up going broke and busted. Of those that move to the less expensive countries, if that country is being presently promoted as best place, they will end up leaving sooner or later as prices spiral out of control. It is now an easily verifiable fact for everyone to see, unlike when we were first warning people 10 years ago, where they had to come and see for themselves. We know the retire abroad media loves to entice people with better cost of living and better quality of life, don't we? But realistically, it doesn't always turn out the way we think it will, as we have previously shown you in this video. In almost everything we do, there are unknown expenses that crop up, and not only that, but you should have an emergency fund for those unintended emergencies and know exactly what you're getting into so you can be financially prepared and not be one of those expats that goes broke and busted living in a foreign country. Well, that's it for now, folks. We hope you found this information interesting today. Have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.